To order. So some announcements. This meeting is being broadcast on local cable TV and recorded for rebroadcast on the local cable channels. Nomination papers are available for local offices in the town clerk's office. An email went out today listing all the various offices that have positions up for election. Call for volunteers, FY24 positions for boards and committees are available. Notably, Conservation Commission, Finance Committee, Council, Cable Advisory Committee. Any others, Jim, that you can think of? Those are the ones that.
Park and Rec tonight.
What's that?
Park and Rec tonight.
Yeah. And then a reminder to subscribe for email town agendas and news announcements. Item A, public comment. Is there anybody here who would like to make public comment? Anybody online? Right. Item B, consent agenda. So which ones do you have questions on? All three?
2 out of the 3, I already read the minutes, so I was okay with those, but the first 2, I just.
All right, so
Questions.
so we have to take them separately.
Okay. The first one, the animal control, my only, you put this out. And my questions would be, how have things gone, and there any, issues, complaints, compliments, or, we're just making a reappointment, we should know how things are going.
Well, the intermunicipal agreement with the city goes through next fiscal year. It's not up for renewal this year. So what we're responding to is this letter from the state where annually we have to provide them in writing the name of the designated ACO. So what's not in front of you tonight is the intermunicipal agreement with Newbury Port.
So you're just giving a letter to the state.
Correct.
Okay.
Yeah.
Do you have a question on the grant, the safe grant? You do,
Yeah,
right?
I have a few.
All right, so.
And how much, it doesn't, you're looking for a grant, doesn't say how much you're looking for, what it's gonna be specifically used for. Another question, I think with all projects and grants we should be looking at is, do we have time to administer them? That's a problem
Mhm.
that I have on another one in there somewhere.
Yeah. So this is just the police department, right, Angus? Do they typically look to the town to support their grant applications and administration? This is the same grant?
Only to the extent that, the finance department sets up different accounts for the
Okay.
receipts and the expenditures and, does have a role in, maintaining the grant files and reporting. So there is some time impact on the finance department for every single grant. But we have, at this point, very good systems. So that shouldn't be, in my opinion, that shouldn't be any kind of, that shouldn't dissuade us.
Okay,
The Chief Dwyer, has always done a really nice job on kind of the heavy lifting of administering his grants.
Mhm. So did you see the bulleted items?
Yeah, but it doesn't say specifically what we're looking, he's gonna do all those? How much, it doesn't say how much you're looking for with the grant. And then my obvious question always is any future costs or obligations after you accept the grant.
Well, I believe this is a time, we could just defer it to our next meeting. There's the deadline.
At the February 15th, yeah, it could be deferred.
Or you can let him apply for the grant and then discuss it once he gets the grant, if you accept the grant. The conditions, I don't know how you want to approve it.
Oh, we have a meeting next week, right? February 6th. Do you want to just defer it till then? I just don't want to put him behind if he's trying to, make a deadline here. Where did you see the deadline? Oh, February 15th. Okay.
But again, everybody else has questions on this, I guess is.
Because Chief Dwyer typically just applies for every grant possible and he gets them and he manages them. It's really not a burden on the town. So.
The framework for this is the board policy. It was initially adopted in 1994. It's been amended a couple of times since then, but it basically says department heads or committee or board chairman shall advise the select board and the town manager of any grant applications they may be considering. The requirements made to allow the projection of future town cost effects and staff time commitments that could result in the award of any grant we receive. before submitting any applications for grants, a summary, the request for proposals, and a submission schedule should be submitted to select board and town manager. So, you know, if it's never been required, for instance, that, a draft grant application be provided, the board hasn't, you know, approved the form of grant application. So I think what the chief submitted is in line with what the board has accepted in the past. But if this board has different expectations, we should really look at that policy because.
I feel like I'm voting on it in ignorance. I mean, I'll vote for it. And to go back to 1994, I think, and I'm pretty sure why that was established then. There was a grant taken at the time for a police officer, but there were strings attached that you own that police officer after 2 years of the grant. Nobody knew that going in. So that's why I'm always asking, what are the future costs and obligations on any grant that you apply for?
So do you want to follow up with Dwyer and ask him these questions? I mean,
No, on this one, I'm gonna move ahead. I'm no.
it's not a problem to wait. I would rather have.
I do have a lot of trust in his work.
Yeah.
I just think that questions we should be asking on
Mhm.
most of these.
Rick, do you have any input on this?
Well, I guess maybe in general, you know, addressing Chris's concerns, maybe, I don't want to overcomplicate, something like this, but maybe there should be a standard, grant approval request that includes things like ongoing costs, you know, will there be ongoing costs? What is, you know, what is the future obligation? And you know, maybe that makes sense. I hate to get more bureaucratic.
Yeah, but yeah, I do also think that it's getting into some things that are kind of town manager's job. I mean, if we got a grant award, there'd be a contract to be signed. Obviously, I'm gonna read a contract before I sign it. I mean, I wouldn't like to have a surprise to get a contract that says, oh, we're gonna fund this for the first 2 years and you're obligated to fund it for the next 3 years. Like, I would certainly agree. The intent of this policy is to make sure that the town has, you know, is knowing what those future commitments are before taking the time to apply for a grant. But applying for a grant and receiving a grant doesn't even commit you to accept a grant. If, I guess the point I'm making is if there were, I think in practical terms, isn't, you know, it seems pretty straightforward and the chief's been administering grants for a lot of years. But if there was an issue, we wouldn't sign a contract to accept a grant if there were terms that we hadn't understood, but.
And so
Yeah.
that's in your office to sign off.
Yeah.
It doesn't come back to the select board.
Correct, yeah, so it's really a matter of, yeah, you know, what's the balance between kind of transparency with the chief elected board and, bureaucracy and spending time creating paperwork before you even apply for the grant.
Yeah, all right.
Wendy, there is one note in here that what happens with this grant is you expend the funds or you return them.
Mhm.
So it seems to be a date of closure that's firm and the way you handle any funds you got. So that kind of implies that there's no ongoing responsibility of the town past receiving the money, expending it, and then returning what it doesn't spend.
Mhm.
Yeah, it looks like the notice of grant award was issued January 12th. The chief sent it over to me the very same day. It was added to this board's next agenda, which is tonight. The deadline's February 15th. So, you know, at the time he sent it, I'm sure he didn't know, and he may not still know exactly what he's going to apply for.
Mhm.
But it's, you know, it's so.
Okay, so you're okay with it? If you're not, say so and we'll.
Go forward with it.
I mean, there's no problem putting it on
Yeah.
next to your meetings in 8 days, so there's really no problem.
I feel like I'm the one with the problem, so I'll move on
Well,
with this.
you are one of three, so if there's an issue, then we can wait. This is,
We're
all
gonna drag it down. Let's go.
right. So do I have a motion to approve the consent agenda?
So moved.
All right, second, all in favor?
Aye.
Rick, are you good?
I,
All right, town manager updates.
All right. We do have a number of things in this section. I want to be sensitive to those who may be waiting for later, items, but, I can,
Do you know if Wendy was gonna join us?
I can't even shoot her.
Well, actually, it's posted for 7:30.
Yeah.
Okay.
So,
okay. So I'll just take them in order, and
Yeah.
if it gets too long-winded,
Yeah.
don't hesitate to cut me off. So, first item on the agenda is, the pending submittal to MassWorks regarding the Middle Street Bridge Grant, and also a financing update. So we are, required by the end of this Wednesday to submit something, through the MassWorks grant portal. As of, this afternoon, that is, complete. We had some assistance from BSC on primarily the, projected financial drawdown over the 3-year term of the grant, based on certain assumed dates of when we would have full funding, when the project would be put to bid, when construction would start. So I'm ready to hit submit on that. That's something I'll do tomorrow. I wanted to just provide that update tonight, but that's gonna be necessary to execute a contract for the $1 million grant that the town was awarded this fall. More broadly, as you know, from materials that were sent around in your packet, made a major push to really crystallize a kind of a financing strategy that builds on a number of prior discussions we've had. And in a nutshell, we've, kind of put the matter to the city, both through the mayor and the council, and we'll be working in the coming weeks and months toward ideally an updated intermunicipal agreement, because while funding share is obviously a material aspect of that, there are other actions that we would need the city to take regardless of what ends up getting agreed on the funding split. Specifically, that would include the rights to do work on land under their control, and potentially the rights to issue debt, or for them to authorize their own debt to finance their share of the cost. So there are certain actions that, even if we had all the funding in hand today, we would still need the city's approval. So an intermunicipal agreement is going to be the vehicle to work all that out. So for those, watching the meeting, if you want to really drill down on the details, there's a huge amount of information in tonight's packet. It's all posted to the town website, but it was really just an informational update. On that same topic, we did get this acknowledgement back from the state federal funds infrastructure office. That's a new office that was set up last March by the then new governor, and for the specific intent of helping communities navigate federal funding. So Rick had done some work toward this specific bridge funding or bridge formula program. And, we asked, Federal Highway, had asked Mass DOT, had asked the congressman's office, and haven't gotten a clear answer. So this was the first time we kind of put into a very succinct form, this is our specific question. I'm hoping we get a favorable response, because if it's eligible for that program, and we could bring some federal money to the table, that would obviously help. So unless there's questions on that, that's the update I have on the bridge.
Okay.
Next update is regarding the telecom RFP. We did, you have in your packet a draft addendum. We have since finalized this and issued it to prospective bidders. It's, as you can see, I know you saw the initial RFP that was in your packet, I think 2 or 3 meetings ago. Is a lengthy, complex document, highly technical in nature. And the basic heads up I want to provide tonight, which we had talked about briefly, I think the last time we talked about this, maybe 3 weeks ago. It is our IT consultant's recommendation that we take the opportunity to also either upgrade or replace the cables associated with both the telephone and the IT infrastructure. And so if we do that, it's definitely not going to be doable within the approved project budget, $65,000, which is to cover replacement phones and associated, equipment for this building, public safety and the library. So if we decide we want to include cables in there, it's, you know, we don't know what the cost will be, but it's gonna definitely exceed that, we expect. So we've been talking at the staff level and with Jake about, possibly engaging someone with expertise in that to provide specific measurements of how much cable, where would be the cable, because under the RFP, as you know, it's an extremely prescriptive process. And in order for vendors to bid, the burden's really on us to tell them exactly what we need, rather than they can't provide, for instance, just unit costs of certain cable. Like, we actually have to tell them how much cable, where's it gonna go, what are the lengths, and that takes significant time and expertise to produce that. So we're working at the staff level at how we can prepare an addendum to the RFP that will specifically articulate what we're looking for in cable. And as part of that, we would extend the deadline by a month to give prospective respondents the time to respond once we issue that detailed addendum.
So would you be looking to hire a firm that does cable replacement to provide the scope?
That's one option. There's a couple of suggestions. We had a working meeting last Wednesday. That was one suggestion that came up.
Mhm.
If we did, it would be someone who wouldn't be interested in actually bidding on the
Yeah.
work. You know, it was suggested, you know, Brian had an electrician, Jake thought we really need to work with someone who's like just in the telecom side and the IT side. Jake had a good suggestion because redoing all the cables for the computers in the building, his recommendation would be they all be run to the basement to the locked cage. Whereas right now, it's in the assessor's office. That would be more secure, what he's recommending, and could bring this work into eligibility for cybersecurity grants. We did look into a particular cybersecurity grant. Unfortunately, it doesn't open until the fall. So depending on what the pricing comes back, we could either go forward, or if the price is just really, you know, high, you know, we could table it and try to get a community compact grant in the fall.
Okay.
So, but unless we have the work under contract by June 30th, we do anticipate looking for town meeting approval this spring to extend the sunset date for this project, because it did have a June 30th, 2024 sunset. So if we get it all under contract, that's fine, but if it looks like it's gonna you know, take longer, we would need to extend that sunset.
Any questions?
I don't have anything really on item C. It's really the same as it's been. I have the draft. Christine Wallace has gone through, provided a bunch of comments, but we're working to get those into a consolidated, so all the comments are in one place. And I expect to have that done in the next, you know, 2 days, but every day is an adventure, so. Next item, I think I'm gonna put that on for next week, because there were some really good insights coming out of that conference, but given the length of tonight's agenda, it's probably not the best comment.
Okay.
And I did get, as part of the conference app, I got the presentations and materials from a lot of the sessions, so I can go ahead and put that in the next packet. And it's great reference material, and I got that both for sessions I attended as well as some that I did not attend. Because under the app, you were able to request any of them, so. I included just informationally the memo that had been sent out regarding the Mullen property, just to ensure that in the event of, you know, any inquiries that may come in on that, that those all be handled in a consistent way, and in a way that doesn't undermine any prospective future public disposition process if the board were to choose to go that route.
Yeah, so I just want to emphasize that at this time, there's no discussion or activity on the Mullen property. Did you have any questions?
I'm just asking about the loan property.
Mhm. He's on a butter on Church
Okay,
Street.
okay.
Yeah.
So,
The one thing I'm also is. Although. I worked in Boston years doing telecommunications and security. For Boston Medical Center and a few others. When you were talking about the IT and running new cable and. Yeah, they ought to stick a new data center in where you put the switches and everything, and that's a must.
Yeah. yeah,
But
So would you like to volunteer your services? Is that what you're saying?
All in favor?
Well, the new committee.
yeah, I mean, I helped design the security system in Bioland. So it was that intense.
we would be glad for the help. It's been one of the more challenging procurements I've seen in my entire
Is
career.
that
I'm
right?
surprised.
It is, well, because none of us are tech people, and even our IT guy is a very, very skilled,
He's not.
but he's not a phone guy.
Yeah.
It's, and because of the RFP process, you know, it was an RFQ, it'd be very, very different. Then you hire someone with the right qualifications, negotiate a scope and fee with them.
Right.
We can't do that. It's an RFP, it's all
Yeah,
prevailing
yeah.
wage, so we have to be very exact. So the RFP is like, you know,
Do you have a set
exactly.
of drawings for this?
We do that we put together based
Usually they'll
on,
put the numbers together for the cable.
yeah,
They'll do a walkthrough, come up with the numbers for the cable. I mean, if you're gonna go out there and measure the cable, the problem with that is if the guy said, well, I used 8,000, you said I was only gonna use 6,000, guess what he's gonna be doing?
So
He's gonna
could,
be coming after you for change order for 2,000 feet of cable.
Yeah, right.
so in your experience, the vendors just walk the building and that they can tell from that how to?
I used to do it all the time.
Right,
You put out an RFP, you give them the prints, they come, they do a job walk.
yeah, we don't have prints.
Yeah.
I mean, we don't have prints. We have, for
Yeah, you'd have.
for
to
the
come
three
up-
different buildings, we have different level of
Right,
documentation.
imagine this building's, well, when we looked at it, you got raceways here and there, I was looking around, it's not like it's in behind the walls.
Right, that's right.
So, it must have been updated at some point, if you got an as-built drawing after you got done.
We don't, but anyway, I would love to, I'd love to share with you what we have, and if you can help, we would love to have the help, because we actually, just today, Caitlin Barker sent an email to the group with another 7 questions that
that came in?
each,
Yeah.
yeah, each of them, in my observation as a non-tech person, technical,
Mhm.
you know, that we're just, you know, on staff, we're not, that's not really our
Well, it's
expertise.
your IT guy, he more of the, you know, the switches and the routers and
Yeah,
that thing, but he's not necessarily into the cable.
right, but he's pretty knowledgeable.
He should be.
Yeah, he's very knowledgeable. He's been with the town a long time, so, and he's seen other of his clients do the same type of initiative, and he's seen it go well, and he's seen it not go well, so he's been really helpful on try to avoid some tripwires. So, but so with regard to, you know, the question about mowing, just to make you aware, all of the select board packets, if you go to the town homepage and click on select board and click on open session meeting packets, they're all here, going back actually years. So anytime you see an issue that's of interest, you just click on tonight's meeting, and you can actually go
That's where I
to
saw it.
the item, and you can click on here, and it'll take you right to the
Oh, right,
memo.
good.
Yeah, so just so to help you and your neighbors navigate.
So that was probably Wendy the other night, you know.
At the
Yeah.
housing production. Yeah,
So-
so there's a citizen's petition to do something with the Mullen property. But the select board has not talked about it. We don't have any intention right now, so that this memo is just to make everybody aware that.
Right, and that citizen petition, we also listed that on tonight's agenda, just in the interest of disclosure, that did come in, and the signatures have been certified, so that's in here too, and that's really why I wanted to put out a memo to all staff and boards and commissions and committees in anticipation that we could expect to get some number of inquiries, and where there has been no discussion by the select board as the custodial board of that land of any disposition or anything like that, it really would, you know, what it says in the memo is, you know, there's publicly accessible files regarding the property, which anyone is welcome to view or make copies, but beyond that, they shouldn't be fielding or entertaining, for instance, individual meetings with people who have expressed development interest, that kind of thing would really not be appropriate.
Yeah, I saw that.
Okay,
So that was. item
that was E.
E. Item F, that's just, making the public aware that the, highway union collective bargaining agreement, was modified this fall, by mutual agreement of the union and the board. And that has now been executed. That is now the new contract. And basically the change that it made is to, reflect the, DPW restructure, with the changing reference from DPW director to, highway superintendent, and some other housekeeping things, but that was the primary content. And I did include one or two items under item G. We had, I guess, just the one item. We had this kind of inspection from the Department of Labor Standards a couple of weeks ago at the library, and happy to report that we got a clean bill of health. So in terms of workplace safety.
Are there any other updates?
That's all I have for now. Yeah.
Okay. So I would propose that we skip ahead to the joint meeting with the Parks and Rec Commission. Is that all right, Jim? Cutting you off. All right, good. So what, do you know what page that is on the,
That's really,
sorry,
doesn't take much.
this is
Yeah,
item F, A.
that's page 132. So
Pages not numbered.
Yeah, that's good, got it too early.
sorry, Chris.
Yeah,
As
it's
soon
okay.
as I hit print, I realized I hadn't put the page.
I'm just happy to have the pages, I guess it's all good.
And do we have anything?
Yeah.
One thing that says iPhone Wendy, which I should.
Yeah, I think that is, yeah,
And then something else that says iPhone.
yeah.
So we're gonna move ahead to consideration of the appointment for a Park and Rec Commissioner. Joint meeting with the Parks and Rec. So do they have to vote to? open the meeting?
They should convene, yeah.
How does one convene? When he's zooming in.
Yes,
I
we
mean-
just have to,
You know, the minutes can reflect that there's a quorum
Yeah.
present and,
so you won't have to do minutes, our minutes can serve.
Yeah.
Also.
Okay, wonderful.
Okay, all right. So we have two applicants for the position. This is, because this is an elected position, and the election's not till May. The select board and the Park and Rec Commission will appoint one of these two applicants to serve the remainder of the term. And then they'll be up for election. So we have an application from Casey Fallon and from Paul Nyman.
Wendy, if I could, the one clarification I would add, whichever person's appointed is not automatically on the ballot. As you know, they would need to separately submit papers. So even if someone is nominated to fill the remainder of the term, they would still need to choose to, put in papers to appear on the.
Yeah, and that would be the three, that would be the 1 year term.
That would be correct.
Yes,
just
it would be the remainder of
the-
that person's term, and then there's also an opening for a 3 year term, which is position Wendy has right now.
Correct.
Yeah. Okay. So how do you want to do this? Typically, when we have people, we just look at their applications and ask questions. Does that sound all right? with you? Okay. So I don't know, is Casey here?
I did talk to him earlier today, and he said he was called into work
Okay,
to stay later, so he may not be on, so I'm not sure. if
Okay.
that's him or not.
okay. Did you just unmute? or
I did.
Hey,
Casey?
yep, I am here, but I'm sorry, I am at work and I'm not able to really speak too much. But any questions that you guys might have, I'd be happy to answer, either through another phone call or, at a date through email or a meeting, however you'd like to do it.
So the process is we ask questions tonight and appoint somebody tonight, so.
Okay. Sure.
Rick, Chris, do you guys have any questions, or Wendy, that you want to ask him quickly so he doesn't get in trouble at work?
Right. Yeah,
Thanks.
well,
Go ahead,
go ahead.
Doug. No, Doug, you go.
That was Rick, actually. Wendy, why don't you go?
Oh, sorry. Just, thanks for taking the time out to, throw your hat in the ring. We're psyched to, have some different blood. Do you mind just telling me like what draws you to, making this commitment? It's massive. It's big. I'm not gonna lie to you. No, I'm kidding. It's a lot of fun.
You made me a little worried there. I'm like, I'm already
No,
missing
it's
the
totally
first meeting
cool.
because I'm at work. But
It-
yeah, no. So I have a 9-year-old who's in 3rd grade at the Page School. I have a 3-year-old, and I just want to help with whatever I can for for the town of West Newbury. Even if it is just for a short stint, and just be able to help with the recreation aspect of things. I think it's something that West Newbury is already doing a darn good job of, and I would just hope that we can keep it going, and be able to see through what is already in place, and then maybe make it any further changes as we possibly can.
That's terrific. Appreciate that. Thank you.
Casey, can I ask a question? So
Sure.
you said just for a short stint. Were you? I mean, do you intend to run for the open position?
Yes,
Okay.
I think. I mean, regardless of how it is, I think this is a great way for myself and my family to kind of get involved in West Newbury. We've been living here for a couple of years,
Yeah.
and I think that just kind of getting involved in the town, and being able to put our stamp on it a little bit is a phenomenal thing. My wife is a teacher, so she's very much into however we can get kids, and I've been involved with health and fitness my whole life, and have recently been getting into more of like the adult recreation stuff. So I think it's something that that is really important for for my family, and I think for the community.
Okay.
Doug, do
Thanks.
you have any questions?
No.
No? Chris, any questions for Casey? Okay, I guess that's it. We'll ask some questions of the other applicant and then make a decision. So thank you for joining us, Casey.
Thank you very much.
Thanks. Yeah. Thanks, Casey.
Thanks, Casey.
So Paul, did you want to introduce yourself, or do you want us to ask questions, or?
Any way you want to do it,
All right, Wendy, do you want to start? Do you have any questions for Doug? I mean, for Paul?
Oh, hi, Paul. Thanks for taking the time to meet with us, and the same spiel. It's a ton of work, grueling hours, tough bosses. Anyway, I know you're an avid pickleball fan, so I understand that that's going to be part of your reason for joining us. Are there other items that you can bring to the table for us that can complement what we already have?
Yeah, I'll tell you a little bit of my background. I've lived in town for over 30 years. I've been involved in a number of activities in town, and a lot of it focusing around youth sports and adult activities. Pickleball is an interest of mine, but it's certainly not my sole interest. In fact, I have plenty of places to play pickleball, but, okay, but I have been involved, as most of you know, I've been involved with helping the senior center put together a program to offer seniors in town. That's been pretty well received, and it's been a lot of fun for me. I've been retired for about 6 years from a career primarily in state government, as well as municipal government. And I have the time, and would like to do something to give back to the town. I mean, like I said, I've been involved with youth sports, from soccer to, we started a soccer program in town. We put together, like part of adult basketball, coached baseball for many years, and, always been, I'd like to see activities that, that benefit more people. I mean, you know, I think, I think it's important to have programs for young kids, for middle-aged kids, because, and adults, and I think, if there's anything I can do to help bring about those activities, like I said, I have a background in government, I understand preparing grant applications and a fair number of contacts in state government that, you know, sometimes can help move things along. Just would like to do, as I said early, I have the time.
Very good. Rick, did you have
Thanks,
any
Paul.
questions? You're muted, Rick.
Sorry about that. Yeah, yeah, you got pretty extensive experience, Paul.
Call me old?
No, that would be,
I'm just joking.
that would be ironic for me to be doing that because we're probably pretty much contemporary, so. Um, yeah, so you have, there seems to be a real push towards pickleball right now, and you have some significant interest in that.
I do. I played pickleball for about 6 years. I've played it at a fairly high level, fairly competitive level, including playing it in the US Open, but I also enjoy teaching it and teaching it to help people understand the game and just have fun and enjoy the physical aspects of it as well as the social aspects.
Chris, do you have any questions?
No question, just a comment. I mean, I went to a Parks and Rec meeting a while ago. And Paul was there advocating very strongly for the pickleball, and I thought he was a strong voice, and I was pleased when I saw he had sent in an application, so, when we get to looking for a motion, let me know.
Okay.
Yeah,
So, I don't recall how this works with the two boards, Angus. Do each make a motion, or do we?
No, it's a single vote of the five of you.
Mhm.
So I believe that anyone could make a motion.
I would ask that because it's a Park and Rec role, if you would be agreeable to allow them to make a motion. Is that all right, Rick?
could you say that again, Wendy?
I said, because this is a Park and Rec position, I would ask if you would be willing to let the Park and Rec commissioners make the motion.
Sure.
Doug or Wendy, do you want to make a motion about which candidate to appoint?
I'd like to make a motion to appoint, Casey Fallon to the open position of the Park and Rec Commissioner.
Okay,
I second the motion.
okay. Any further discussion about this? I guess I would say because there's, well, you know, another position open, whichever one of you is not selected, then you could, you know, potentially run in May, so. Right.
I find it unfortunately, we have two good applicants for the opening, and it's frustrating. And I already stated I'm gonna be voting for Paul, but that's not a vote against Casey,
Mhm.
so I wish the motion had been different, but that's the way it is.
All right, any other discussion? Okay, all in favor? Aye,
Aye.
all opposed?
Aye.
Okay. All right. Thanks, Paul. Thanks, Casey.
Hey, Paul, I'd
Thank
love
you.
to have a conversation. Paul, are you still there?
Yeah.
Yeah, I'd love to have a conversation. There are, you know, there are other, you've got some pretty, obviously, you know, you've got a career of, solid, you know, solid background, and there definitely are other positions within the municipal government, other volunteer positions or elected positions that, it'd be great to leverage your skill set, you know? So if you don't mind, I might give you a ring.
Yeah, anytime. I've talked with Angus before. Angus is aware of my background and my availability, and anything I can do to help out, I've done before and I'm willing to do again.
All right,
And
thank
it
you.
sounds likely that we'll have a capital improvements committee meeting probably a week from Thursday, which both Rick and,
All right, so you can talk then. All right, so Casey needs to do what, Jim?
Yeah, so Casey, if you could stop in my office, we can swear you in. And then, you can become a member of the board, and then you can meet just like everyone else.
Thank you very much. I appreciate it. Yeah.
And Casey, the next Park and Rec meeting was set for February 20th at 6 o'clock, just FYI.
5 o'clock.
5 o'clock. My
Well,
apologies.
I have to submit it, but we're planning on it.
Okay, good.
Just before, as long as it's before that, then you should be good.
All right, great. All right, so we'll go back to item D now, department updates and discussion, Whittier election results.
It's one thing.
Right, close, right here.
Yeah.
So,
So can you pull that chart up? No, I'm off.
item DA, page 40.
Thank you.
oh, did you want to take up the park and rec, the summer rec budget while we still, I don't know if Wendy's still with us, but we still have. But,
Too bad.
but they referred it, so I
Yes.
think unless you're
Yeah.
doing anything different. But yeah, that was put right after just,
Doug, were you intending to stay for the summer rec, discussion?
I can hang out. I have no problem hanging out if there's any questions or something, yeah, sure.
Okay. All right. Yeah, I noticed that, I didn't think to call it out before Wendy signed off, so.
nor did I.
Sorry. Are you trying to get her back on?
Yeah, but she, I think she's running out to something.
Oh, all right.
She's thanking me for reminding her about the meeting, so I think she's committed herself to something else. Yeah, so I don't think she's coming back.
Okay, fair enough. All right, why don't we go ahead with yours?
Sure. All right. So, as everybody knows, we've had an election recently. I did a little bit of analysis, especially that last column there. I did an estimated turnout, which I had shared with the board, to assuming how much each town would be a percentage of the entire vote. That final column is the difference of what the actual turnout was versus what the estimated turnout, what I assumed the estimated turnout would be, and that was the high end that I assumed that would be. As you can see, it's a significant increase for Newburyport, Amesbury, and significant decrease for Haverhill and a couple other communities. But even we had a larger portion of the vote as it works. We had such a large turnout in the end.
And what is a typical West Newbury turnout? Somewhere like 700?
Yeah, so the typical West Newbury turnout will be anywhere between 700 and 900. That for this weird off-time election that I assumed. But we had well over 1,000 voters with a small number of prior to, so it's like 40 or 45 people who voted prior to the election. Everyone else voted in person.
That's great. Yeah, I did read a newspaper article that Haverhill, this was the 4th election they've had and like since the fall, so people are just burnt out with elections.
Yeah, so they had an override vote in June for the Constantino School to approve borrowing for that. They had a primary in September, a general election in November, and this January election, now they have a March election, and so it's just gonna keep going with that.
Okay. Good. Any questions or thoughts on this?
Well, because it's Whittier, yes, tomorrow there's a meeting. Which I'll be going to. They picked a nice time, 10 a.m. in the morning. And I assume most of the other communities are gonna have representatives there to speak, so I don't even know if we need to speak, but if we do, is there anything you or Rick, are you gonna be showing up, or?
If there's a Zoom option,
There is.
Oh, there is?
Yeah, they, Rebecca just texted it to me and I'll make sure we get it
Oh,
out to the
okay.
board.
Well, good for them.
Yeah, but it will be a Zoom option.
I mean, my personal comments again would be, and I hope Whittier hears it, and I think they will, particularly from the Newburyport mayor, is that before we do anything moving forward with a renovation or a new project or whatever, I think the regional agreement has to be revisited, and preferably with a committee that gets established that is not the Whittier School Committee. Hopefully, one member from each community town, possibly two from the three big cities, will get together and look at how to make the regional agreement equitable, fair, and easier to modify going forward in the future. So those would be my general comments. I don't know if you or Rick say yes or no, or object, or speak for yourself, or shut up, whatever.
No, I agree with that. I also would like raised the, fair number of people commented that if we're gonna spend this much money, we ought to increase the enrollment instead of keeping it the same. You know, instead of turning away people that are applying, you know, have a school be able to house more than 1,280 students.
Well, the state was the one that put the kibosh on that, but
Well, they put the kibosh. They just said that,
you're not gonna get money.
yeah, so I mean, I think the point was raised by enough people, both in our information session and, you know, articles in the paper. It's a fair thing to discuss, at least.
Maybe, and again, my comment to that discussion would be, rather than increasing enrollment, why not find a process that puts more kids in who are actually gonna go into the trades? Only 35% go directly into the trades. That's your problem. It's not the total enrollment.
Right.
If it becomes a school that is just funneling kids off to colleges, that's what high schools are supposed to do, not the VOTEC.
Right.
So I think they have to refine their process on how they put the kids into the trades.
Mhm.
I'd rather see that number closer to 50% or preferably higher.
Right.
Versus a bigger school, so. I'm
Yeah,
sure
it would
that-
be, it would be interesting to have more detail on the numbers that we've heard, like that 35%. I, the way that was stated to me was kind of vague so,
No,
Rick, we did get follow-up from the business manager who confirmed that.
Yeah.
Yeah,
it's in the
It's actually less than 35, in Whittier. State number's 35, it was 34.3.
whatever.
Yeah.
You know, and then you
it's
get,
not.
yeah, right, I mean, everything needs to be more analyzed than
Yeah.
what we were able to do.
Yeah,
right.
I mean, they have a lot of other issues to deal with, but I think
Right.
the big one is to start with the
yeah, now's the
agreement.
time to do that, yeah.
Because it's unmodifiable in general, because it's unanimous vote. I think that's gonna have to be a component that goes, maybe it becomes 2/3.
Yeah,
You know, maybe the funding for capital projects become a two-step process between number in the community and number who go to Whittier. Whatever, that's something for a committee to decide, and I think this is a really good time
Mhm.
for that, so.
Rick, did you have anything to add? Are you planning on attending remotely?
Well, if there's a Zoom option, I may, I'm kind of feeling under the weather and I don't think I should be, exposing other people to whatever I've got right now. So I'm not gonna go there in person, but if there's a Zoom option, my intent had been to go tomorrow, but, I'll have to look for the Zoom option.
Okay. All right, sounds good. Thank you for. knowing.
I think it's a good evening to ready to look at the Pentucket agreement.
Yep,
So actually, I did have one other comment. I know, Chris, you had, made a comment previously about, it should be easier. I won't get the phrasing exactly right, but the essence was that it ought to be easier for municipality to withdraw from the agreement. And, my concern there is that, people are going to jump ship and all of a sudden, what had been a regional vocational technical school is down perhaps multiple communities and so it's no longer serving those communities, but it's also no longer getting funding. And I'm a
First of all,
little
Rick, I
concerned.
didn't say it should be easy to withdraw. I said it should be easy to make modifications. to the
Okay, well,
agreement.
I guess I misunderstood something that you said there, because I thought you had mentioned withdrawing as being something that should be easier to do. So, okay.
No, and again, that should definitely have a higher threshold, I would agree.
Yeah,
I'm not, and this is just one person, we've got 11 communities are gonna be
Yeah,
addressing
this is
these
just
issues.
the start of a conversation.
right. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. I mean, I don't mean to get ahead of the conversation. But I just wanted to express that one concern that it remained viable as a regional district.
The other thing that I think should be considered is the makeup of the building committee. You know, there are certain prescribed functions that have to be represented on it, but I don't feel that it's, you know, broadly representative of all the towns. So that's something that I think could be,
You're assuming they go forward with the building committee.
Yeah. Depending on the outcome, that's one point that I would like raised. All right, anything else on that? So can I count on you for an update on the agenda the following week?
Sure.
All right,
In 20 minutes.
all right, that's good. All right, Jim, receipt of citizen petition article.
Yes.
We're still in department updates and then I'll skip over to the.
So I have one in so far, it's the one that's included in the packet, from Mr. Baker, regarding the Mullen property itself. And then, there was a second petition that I should be receiving in tomorrow, regarding, lowering the voting age locally, or at least petitioning the state legislature to allow West Newbury to lower the voting age for, town meeting and local elections to, 16. By David Seaton.
So that would just be West Newbury or?
Yeah, it would be a petition to the legislatures asking them to allow.
And is this kind of a statewide push by
I believe
municipalities?
it's in the organization that he's
Okay.
working with.
Yeah.
That they're trying.
There are several communities that, out of the 350 or so, there's several that have gone this route.
Mhm.
So it is a thing.
It's, never been approved statewide.
Yeah,
I think there's a lot of opposition, from the Secretary of State's office particularly, because, they're kind of the people that the legislature goes to say, hey, can we do this election thing? But I know, like, Rob said, there have been several communities that have put forward this
Mhm.
petition
Right.
for this cycle or in the past?
in past.
Okay, and have they been successful? Yeah, okay. All right,
It's a similar petition to, allowing non-citizens to vote in local elections and things like that.
Mhm.
Things like that have been pushed up to the state legislature. It's just, their home rule petitions and they let's get active.
Okay. And can you just state what the requirements for a citizen petition are, just so people are
Sure.
familiar?
So it's 10 signatures, 10 certified voters. So they return the papers in May, and you can see I checked off 12.
Mhm.
Citizens who signed this petition to, ask it to be put forward on annual town meeting. Special town meeting, you need 100 signatures.
Mhm.
So if you wanted to call a special town meeting, or if you want to be put on a special town meeting, it would require 100 signatures versus annual town meeting, which is just 10.
Okay, thanks. All right, anything else on that? Okay, so should we go to the,
Yeah, we did just have under department updates, because but we had the town planner report, just to acknowledge that's in your packet, doesn't need a discussion of that.
okay, it's not on the agenda, right?
No, it's not.
Okay, all right, did you have any questions on the town planner report? I see highlight there.
I was questioning about the issue at Drake's Landing and the water flowing.
Mhm. That's an ongoing, they're working with the property manager, who's new, I believe, right?
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah, the condo association has a new property manager. There was a on-site meeting last week, and it looks like it's really a matter of kind of basic operations and maintenance, that it seems like the system was designed properly, but it hasn't been, things haven't been raked out, and so that's diverting water in a way that wasn't designed. So, but yeah, Michelle and Sue and Paul and Sam have all been involved on site, so.
Right, but that should be all, the fact that the town is getting involved that much is. I know you have to, but it's
Yeah.
frustrating when it's the homeowners association supposed to be maintaining and doing that.
Yeah.
That's not even a town accepted road, correct? And there's no
Correct.
intention of it.
But as a result of the situation, it was overflowing into
Why not?
residents'
Like
yards,
this.
yeah.
It's unfortunate.
Yeah. Anything else on that?
Yes,
All right,
thank you.
so, board, committee, and commission updates. We'll start with the historical commission. Elisa, are you gonna take the lead on that?
Yes, Jennifer Conway, who worked so hard for so many years, starting in 2017 on this, just could not make it tonight. So here we are. I don't know, can we share screen?
Yep.
It-
Yeah. I have the actual report in the packet, so I can put that up, or if there's something you have that's not.
I
in
have
the-
something more recent from Jennifer that has a little bit more, a little bit different.
Okay, yeah, what I'll do is go ahead and make you host, and then you can share your screen.
Okay,
Just make sure, Elisa, before you leave the meeting, to make sure to make me host again, because if you were to leave, it would adjourn the meeting if you do it while you're host.
okay. I will not do mischief, at least not intentionally.
You hold the reins at this point.
Right, okay, so you have power.
See. Does that work?
Just a second, yes, let me just, yeah, it's, the scale's kind of tough, if you can make it larger. that'd be
Okay, wait a
better.
minute, I'll do that. Is that better?
Yep,
Okay, so this has been a long-term project, and it was done with 3 surveys, which were not in address order, but it covered starting with Main Street and sort of going from there. It was in a number of aspects to it, including looking at the cultural resources and sort of the background and the story of the various parts of town, as well as the individual houses and resources that were examined. And I have to say, I'm awfully glad we did it. I think the timing was good. Some of the places that have been surveyed are torn down, and some are so remodeled that they're not the same anymore. So it was a good way to sort of virtually preserve what we have and have a good story about it too. So there were 294 properties, plus outbuildings, plus cemeteries and a bridge, and just many, many different things looked at. We have a number that are recommended for listing in the National Register of Historic Places, and that is for the property owner really to pursue. It would go to the Historical Commission locally, and then to the Massachusetts Historical Commission, and then to the Department of Interior for someone who wants to do that.
Hey,
So
Elisa, just a quick question. What bridge was
Middle
involved?
Street,
Ah, okay. I
it's
thought that might be the
historic.
case. Right, no,
Um,
it is.
And it's
Yeah.
a rare example anymore of that kind of bridge, the stone bridge. So,
Yeah,
and that might go too, when we wanted to virtually preserve that. So there we
right,
go.
right.
So this is also on the website, and it's on the website in order of address, and you can go to a table of contents, and then you can hyperlink to the exact address. So this is a great way to find it. This is additionally in the library. It's a bunch of loose leaf notebooks for each one. It's not in the same kind of order. And I'm very sorry to say that some people have removed some of the entries. So one of the things that we're thinking of doing is getting a bound version of it, so that it would be available in the library and hopefully available without losing parts of it. There are I figured out how many pages there are. There are over 1,600 pages of this. So it would probably become a CPC application for funding because it would not be that cheap to do. But I think it could be worthwhile to preserve. Although we do have it online and that won't get lost at least. There are also 4 historic districts. This is a listing of the properties here going forward. And then there are historic districts, which really probably the town's historic district committee, which right now is only the training field as a formal historic district. If there were a desire to pursue having additional historic districts, that would be something that I think that commission may be more suited than the historical commission, although we work with them and they're great to work with. The difference, by the way, between being on the National Register of Historic Places, which is a federal thing, is that there is no restriction on what you can do with a property. The restriction is, and the reason the training field, for instance, became a historic district was the concern that their state was fiddling around and expanding Main Street, and they wanted to protect it, so they made it a historic district. There are limits in the training field as to what you can do with the facade, and that's what the Historic District Commission really pays attention to. But anyway, and one potential new district would be the Way to the River Historic Area. That's where some very, very old structures are. This is from the website, and these are the houses that would be involved. And you can see it's not just Main Street, it's some others as well. The next potential historic district is Manufacturers Row, and that's the homes of the people who were the bigwigs in the comb and shoe industries at the time. And these are the properties that would be eligible for that. And of course, the training field already is a historic district. And these are the properties. And then there's Maple Street, which was really when the industrial boom happened starting around the 1840s, there was a big expansion. This was the housing development for West Newbury, Maple Street was. And this would be the other historic district. And there are a number of places for that. So that's sort of it in a nutshell. I know it's a long meeting, so I'm not going to keep you much longer. If you have any questions, let me know. I really am very excited and very pleased that we have it completed. And I think the question is just making it and keeping it available to everybody.
Lisa, could you scroll back to the training field district? I wasn't aware that it crossed Main Street. Goes pretty far back. Yeah. Huh.
So I think there's, yeah, well, the town hall is a significant part of it. And of course, the library is also included, as you know. This is the town hall, but it is on both sides.
Interesting. Do you have any questions?
No, but I have a comment.
Yeah.
Just because we're talking historic properties, and when she noted, I read the packet, there were barns.
Yeah.
So a few years ago, I got wind of the Bardeen Culver timber frame. Are you aware of that? It's the oldest timber frame barn in the US. And a number of years ago, Ann Bardeen, Mickey Culver, I think they donated the structure. Anyways, it went off their property, disassembled. It went to Quincy. It sat in Quincy, Mass for many, many years undercover. And then a gentleman out in the western part of the state bought it from them because they didn't have the money to erect it. So I contacted him. It was the new design and building with the intention I would attach it to my house and bring it back to West Newbury. Should never left West Newbury. But this gentleman really doesn't want to give the barn up. He does restore timber frames and everything else. And I said, well, what are you looking for it? And he started going, well, you know, he will only erect it on your site. We'll say the frame, 700, 800, 900,000, maybe more. Well, that's an obscene number. And so then I talked to Ann Bardeen about it, and we talked, and her son, who lives a couple houses down from me, he approached the gentleman, he tried to acquire, and there's no logical conversation. I don't know if there would be grants out there, or if anybody has any inclination to pursue this to bring it back to West Newbury in some form. It's a very unique timber frame too, because it's not square, it's cut, the logs naturally, the way they were cut was framed with them. So they can trace the origin back to, you know, the skills from England or wherever. So there's a lot of history to it there, just to have somebody buy it and put a house in upstate New York or something seems sinful.
Yeah.
So I don't know if there's any way the Historic Commission has any interest in pursuing that in any fashion.
What do you think, Elisa?
It sounds long and hard. I will raise it. We're meeting on the 13th, I think, so I will raise it. And if you have any additional information that I can share with the other members, that would be great too. But
I'll send you the link to the guy, he's got the drawings of the barn and everything else on his website.
that would be great, yeah.
Angus, did you want to talk about the maintenance on the training field, or is that something with Jen?
I'm not sure if that's been something that, have you had, Elisa, has your commission had conversations with the Historic District Commission regarding their ideas for changes to the landscaping on the training field?
Yes, we have. We do meet with them periodically, and as I say, I think they're great. Particularly, you know, I'm working on this book thing, and I was looking at old pictures, and those bushes have really taken over a large percentage of the space. And I think that the Historic District Commission also tends to view that way, as does the Garden Club. So it's a question of, you know, figuring out what to do about it. But I think the group that met were pretty much in agreement that those bushes now are just overwhelming. They're overwhelming the memorials, and they're taking up a lot of space on that area.
That was a good part of the conversation I had with Jill Hudson. She had reached out to me last August, and we'd met on site within about a week or so. And the way we had left it, I told her everything she was describing was fully within the town's capabilities, and that you know, kind of what she could do that would be most helpful would be to be able to bring something to this select board, obviously as the custodial entity for that land, that reflects the recommendation of the Historical Commission and the Historic District Commission, because that would be the first question this board would ask if there was a proposal: is what is the Historic District Commission thing, and what's the Historical Commission thing? So if there was something that was brought to this board to say, we'd like to see, you know, DPW pull out this shrubbery or replace this tree or this or that, and she had some specific ideas we talked about in the field. So that's kind of where we left things, and we've had some follow-up correspondence over the fall. And then you know, we just heard from her actually in the last day or so. And if it's something that's largely can be done with in-house labor and equipment, it's not a budgeting issue. It really only becomes a budgeting issue or a warrant article issue if there's you know, a direct expenditure, whether for you know, to install like a major tree. Obviously that would get to where that'd be a dollar cost. But I do think if Jill and the Historic District Commission can just, you know, just say, bring something to the board that's clear enough that you understand what's being proposed, and then the board can authorize that. And then, you know, we could work with Public Works to do what they can do within their existing labor and equipment. I mean, it wouldn't be, you know, I talked a bit with Brian Richard about it, and it wouldn't be any trouble to pull out all that stuff, but obviously they're not gonna do it without this board's okay, and without some thought to what's the post, you know, once you pull that out, you know, what's the post removal plan.
I also wondered about disrupting the memorials by, I don't know what the root structure is like on those stuffs, you know?
Yeah.
But, yeah, Elisa, in her email, Jill was talking about also replacing the tree. And so that's clearly a bigger project than the DPW would probably take on. So maybe that can be deferred and, we applied for CPA funds for.
Yeah, yeah. So how is it left? Does the we met, so they know that they have the support of the Historical Commission and the Garden Club. We were also talking about landscaping at Town Hall, which we're all in agreement about too, which is really short, small plants. So what's the next step vis-a-vis? Do I need to get in touch with the Historic District Commission and tell them to talk to the select board, or do you want to do that? How? What-
I've done that. It just may be that, I think what's needed is something that this board can act upon to authorize the work. So some, it could be just a brief bullet point statement of the intent to remove these or replace that, or something that the board can then vote to authorize that work to take place. So that could be more or less detailed. It really comes down to what does this board want to have in front of it to authorize it, but that's not obviously work that I can authorize.
Right, so we have minutes from the meeting where we talked about this. And I will share them with Jill and CCU and say that, we spoke at this meeting. And the next step would be to basically take the contents of the minutes and make them into a request to the select board.
I think that would do it.
Yeah, I would just say, if it's just limited to the shrubs, that will work. If it's the larger project that will cost a lot more money and need outside contractors, I think that should be separated.
That makes sense.
Yeah. Okay, great.
Okay.
Well, thank you. Thank you for your work on this. It's been a long time coming, right?
It was fun.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So-
in fact,
so
I think that.
I'm
so
not
there's
screen
some-
sharing. I can leave and I won't
Yeah.
trash your meeting.
You can, yeah, I reclaimed the host, but I was just gonna say, one of the first, so I was brand new, it was like August of 2018, and the Historical Commission at that time was filing the closeout paperwork for phase 1 of the Historic Property Survey.
Mhm.
So it's, that's what, almost 6 years ago.
Yeah.
So it has been, as Elisa said, been a long-term project.
Mhm.
Okay,
Thank
you,
you,
Well-
Lisa.
talk to you later. Bye-bye.
Thank you.
See you later.
All right, I'm gonna skip ahead to the, under F, action items, item B, request for approval of proposed 2024 summer rec program budget and staffing structure. Sorry to mess you up.
That's fine.
Order.
Okay, so Wendy, I know you were at the meeting on Friday. It sounds like everything was approved in the form that is in front of the board tonight. Is
Yep.
that correct?
Yep. Rick, Chris, do you have any questions about this?
Now, what page are you on right now? So just so I can,
Page 137 is the program budget.
thank you.
I have a couple of quick questions.
Yeah.
It says number of participants, 466, $160. This is a 6-week program. It's $160 for the 6 weeks?
No.
No, for
That's per week.
Okay. And are these for West Newbury residents or is it?
It's open to anybody. I would say 98% of the participants are West Newbury. And one thing we've talked with the commission about is in the upcoming cycle to have a pre-registration for 1 to 2 weeks that would be residents only, to ensure that any West Newbury residents would have first crack at it.
That's what I was gonna get at. I don't mind other people as long as exactly as you said, we have first preference.
Yeah, I think they had 3 or 4 kids from Berlin last year.
I'm thinking more, but
Yeah, but majority was West Newbury kids, yeah.
It's a very reasonable price for a week of camp.
Yes.
Any other questions, Chris?
good.
Rick, any questions
No,
or thoughts on this? Okay,
no, all looks good.
yep. So we don't need a motion, right?
I would look to a motion, yeah, on the staffing
Just the
structure and the
staffing.
wages and,
Okay,
yeah, because those are under the board's
So the assistant director though hasn't been hired yet. There's a range for that.
Correct, yeah, so for the budget number, I put the top of the range, the actual pay may vary depending on who's hired and at what level. Same with the
Counselors.
counselor pay, that's kind of illustrative, so you know what the rates are, but the actual rates would be determined at the point of hire based on
And then,
experience.
and then we would approve those as part.
I wouldn't look for a separate vote for
Okay.
that.
All
You
right.
know, if it was part of the operating budget, that's one thing, but
Okay.
this is kind of, that's part of why I wanted to get this
Yeah.
before you sooner.
All right, so can it be a single motion?
Yep.
Chris?
Yeah,
Approve the staffing and the budget for, the staffing budget for the Parks and Rec.
So
Second.
do you need staffing structure? or-
Staffing structure and budget is what I'm.
Okay.
Structure
And
and staffing budget.
very
So
good.
second.
Second. All right, further discussion? All in favor? Aye.
aye,
Thank you. It's a little odd, and I'll say the same thing to you that I've said to the Park and Rec Commission before, which is that the summer rec program broadly is under their oversight. And the program budget is under their oversight, but because the staffing structure and the wages are under the select board's oversight, it needs both approval. So it's just that portion of the budget that is before you. The rest of it is really good for you to understand, but it's not. It's something that the commission's vote is sufficient on the non-personnel expenses.
Okay. Good. Thanks.
I guess.
See you later, Doug.
So,
Okay, back up to E. Item B, finalized water distribution study, received January 22nd. So I assume you confirm that all of your many changes were incorporated.
Yeah, I mean, obviously, the material concerns I had with it were not, but we got clarification as we talked about before as to, you know, whether that was or wasn't in scope, so. I did ask, you know, the water department, I said, you know, it'd be great to get this posted and kind of broadly circulated once the board of water commissioners has accepted it as a final product, is marked final, but. So as of Tuesday, which was the day we got it, or maybe the day after we got it, I reached out to Jody and she. I just said, once the board accepts this as final, or if they have already done so, it'd be great to get this posted to the water department webpage. In the meantime, I told her I'd be sharing it with the board and FinCom. And she got back to me and said, good morning, the board has not seen this yet, but I'm sure Mark will talk to them about having the vote to accept. I'll post to the website as soon as that is done. So while it's marked final, you know, in my opinion, until the water commissioner as the client accepts it. But I think we can, you know, we've been going around and around on this for so long. I think the initial draft that went to the commission was last March, almost a year ago, so I think, I'd be surprised if it changed any from what you have in front of you.
So how was the capital improvement plan resolved? Just they had a different understanding of the scope?
Well, yeah.
I mean, could you read that in the bullet up front, and that section is not that by any stretch? So-
No, it's not, and, you know, you know, we talked about this at the water commission meeting a couple of weeks ago, but. You know, in some of the correspondence we had, my office had with the former superintendent back in like February, March of 2022, when we were. You know, going to our town meeting to fund this study. We had copied the vendor and articulated exactly what we hoped to accomplish.
Mhm.
Which, and that was updated capital program and. Integrating that with the rate study so that you'd actually have this like clear. Cause and effect between capital projects, impacts on rates. I mean, that was really, we set that vision out very clearly. And the vendor was copied on those emails. And yet, you know, the contract that was signed, you know, year and a half later, find out, oh, no, that wasn't part of the scope. So, you know, wherever the breakdown was, I mean, at the end of the day, the contract signed by the water commission, the vendor delivered what they were contracted to do, but there was, in my opinion, a breakdown of communication, and I don't know if that was, I don't know why. Because I think I know we were very clear on our objectives for this.
Okay. Any questions or comments, Chris?
Yeah, it's a lot of work to be done there. I mean, total up the numbers,
I know.
it's almost $30 million. That's without any land acquisition.
Yeah.
Pretty staggering.
Rick, did you have any comments? You're muted still.
Sorry about that. I'm trying not to treat you to listening to me blow my nose and cough, you know, so,
Thank you.
yeah, it's been a long time coming, and yes, as Angus noted, yeah, it's kind of unfortunate that it doesn't really cover the real capital needs. It doesn't really explain what the capital needs are going to be for upgrading the water pipe, and really all it covers is the fire flow. So, but that's what we got.
Yep. Okay. Anything else you want to highlight in here?
Yep.
Okay. So item C, CPA funding and eligibility applications. Two of these are, the applicant is the select board, with Angus as the contact person. So I just want to make sure you both saw copies of them. They were both approved at the CPC meeting last week. One is for the pickleball site, court feasibility study. That's in the recreation category. The other is for Sawmill Brook, trail, design and permitting. That's noted in here. The original application had it as open space, but the CPC voted that it's really a recreation project. It doesn't matter, it comes from the same 10%. And then the Historical Commission's application for maintenance of the Quaker Cemetery project, that's also in here. The eligibility was approved. They submitted a funding application, but it needed some more backup, so that'll be voted on the next meeting. Any questions or comments on these?
Yeah. 22 grand for the pickleball court. Where did that, how was that number derived?
That came from, several communities have done these studies, and that was the most recent one that was done.
Just seemed like enough for that.
Yeah.
And then this is sort of like, if these all get approved, this becomes more work for Angus and his team. And I think we mentioned before, this is part of the luxury we have of having grants and funds available for all these projects. You might be able to fund them all, but being able to implement them all appropriately, I just don't want to overburden Angus and his staff. So I just think we have to be careful of that. So if you see any of these that are gonna really throw a wrench and just wave a flag and start yelling, maybe we hold off on some of these.
Well, there's definitely, both of these are going forward anyway, and I think these applications, Wendy and I talked back in December about what would be good CPA applications for this cycle. There are others on the list that were not brought forward, and these two were prioritized. She and I both agreed these were kind of the top two that we both felt, based on trying to be responsive to what we're hearing in the community. And we know with the Sawmill Brook, obviously the acquisition of that land, there's expectations people have of trail connectivity. That's been part of the discussion for years. Bringing that to reality is a lot more extensive and costly than probably a lot of people realize, but that is what people's objective has been. So I think having the resources to actually do that in a diligent way with the engineering that's going to be needed to get that permitted, I think is very timely. And thankfully, we have a number of really excellent staff, in particular a conservation agent who's really going to kind of quarterback that effort with our project manager as well. On the pickleball, that's also something that, we've heard really loud and clear. And Chris, I know you were at the meeting referenced earlier, Park and Rec this fall. There's a major constituency in town eager to see that happen. Personally, I don't, what was submitted was the eligibility. The funding application hasn't been submitted. That'll be submitted ahead of the February meeting. And, it may be that it can be done for less than that. I think a lot of the cost is going to have to do with how much is the town looking for a consultant to do versus what we would do. I think, you know, some of the site selection, the tricky part and the time intensive part is gonna be involving enough stakeholders so that there's a slate of potential sites that's kind of reflects the community, desire. So that does take time, it takes meetings, and it does benefit from having kind of a point person. So,
When we were trying to decide which projects, CPA projects to bring forward, we talked about using the DPW projects manager to run these projects. And so that is the intent. She has the
Yeah.
time to run these too.
yeah, I
so
mean, she's gonna need to give up some of her other
Right.
projects. Her project list is way more than a single individual can do. And it's a fraction of the conservation agent's list, and it's a small sliver of my list. So we're all doing more than can be done. You see that week in, week out with the workload, so.
And I don't wanna keep throwing more work on you. when you
Yeah,
got the work.
it's good for the board to be intentional about, just as you're intending to do here, before we take on something new, let's look at the project list and is this gonna crowd out something else that's a major priority?
Well, and once they both get approved, then your workload goes.
Right.
Well, but there's a difference. I mean, sometimes, you know, we saw this with a couple of projects a couple of years ago where it was like, as soon as the vote, you had active constituencies kind of demanding that me and Wayne drop everything. And it's like, whoa, like, just because the funding's approved doesn't mean, you know, we have time to drop everything. I think we've come a long way since then. And I think people have a much better idea of the existing workload, and that anything new is gonna crowd something out. Like there's so much going on and more all the time. So it's a good question to ask, but I think as long as the you know, the pickleball does have a pretty short timeline for performance, but that's gonna be needed to be responsive to the community. If the intent is to bring forward something potentially for CPA funding in the spring of 2025, we're gonna need to have a good idea of the location by the end of the calendar year.
All right. And then just another update on CPC, the input that you all gave to me at the last meeting, all of the other boards and commissions sought similar input, and so that will be added to the community preservation plan, which is updated annually at our next meeting, and then we have our required annual public hearing at our March meeting. So that's where we're at.
Do you have that date, Wendy, the March meeting?
Well, it might conflict with FinCom, so we're gonna have to do some
Okay.
massaging of
Okay,
that.
so we will be taking up the meeting dates and stuff later.
Yes,
All 87 of them.
yeah. Okay. I know,
Once we have that date, we'll definitely wanna make sure,
yes, for sure.
you know, we can promote that to hopefully get more participation
Yeah.
than we've had in the past.
And we will offer Zoom link, our Zoom,
Great.
option. So item E, there's a, D, which is about the Kentucky Regional Agreement update. Did you want to update on that, or is that?
Well, yeah, I mean, it kind of came up a little bit after the agenda had already been finalized, but there is a meeting tomorrow afternoon that Chris has graciously agreed to attend. And you know, I don't think we want to go too far with this since it's not agenda tonight, but just to make the board aware. And we did circulate a consolidated draft earlier, you know,
But
late this afternoon.
The key point is their intention is to have this ready for the town meeting. So either we're addressing it in a very precise way for what was put out before,
Mhm.
because we can't stop rattling off the rails again, so.
But all of those comments were incorporated in what you sent, right?
They were, but I got a email back, about 25 minutes ago from just saying, you know, thanks for putting these edits together. Unfortunately, these edits came through after I had commenced meetings prior to my board of selectmen meeting, so I did not bring the document to my board for discussion. Well, the document is your comments that you provided. It's nothing but that. It's the comments we'd sent, 13 months ago,
Right. All right.
plus the comments this individual had sent. It's nothing like that. So it's like
Yeah,
talking
moving target,
past
yeah.
one another.
Well,
so.
well, the schedule, I mean, looking at the agenda for the proposed
It's all gonna be done in
agenda.
55 minutes.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, you got to make major decisions in 25 minutes or whatever the ridiculous time frame
I
is.
said 55 minutes, yeah.
Yeah, well, it was broken up. There was, okay, I should look at it again, but it was sort of, it was sort of pieced out in these little bits and, I don't know how that's gonna happen.
Hello, Chris.
It's gonna be a short meeting, I'll be out of there quick.
I do think, when the board meets a week from tomorrow to close the town meeting warrant, you'll need to decide to
Yeah.
keep a placeholder for this or not.
Whatever it might be.
I
Whatever.
haven't seen emails, you sent the consolidated document then?
Yeah, I think it was around 5 o'clock today, that we got that done.
Color coded and everything.
Yeah, I didn't love the format.
No,
It's just-
it's good,
no, I-
it's great, it's the best you could do.
It was the best we could do,
Yeah, absolutely.
given the.
Plus, you're being, how much, it'll never be a finished piece that, so knowing that we're going into this meeting tomorrow night. It's great, it's a great jumping off point.
Yeah, that's what I needed, the jumping off.
Right, jumping off. The water may be too deep, but we got a jumping off.
Jump off a bridge.
Okay, next item is the request to authorize the submission of the Ash Street Road Management Plan to the Natural Heritage. So, do you have the map? It was too large for, I was trying to,
I don't, but I can pull it up if you go with me. I just gotta extract it from my email.
When are you doing that? Can I ask just, landing turtle, I'm fascinated. Are there a lot of them out there or just,
it's a designated area for them, yeah.
has anybody seen these?
Oh, there's hundreds of them, Chris.
Oh, are they good eating? No, really, I'm serious. Do people see them out there? It's just. they have them-
I never have, but I trust that they are actually out there.
Groups of people that walk the street looking for them, and
Well,
as far
only
as
turtles I've seen are the flat ones out there.
Chris,
No, I will say that last summer when Michelle was doing her mortality surveys, she did not find any dead.
Oh, that's good.
Yeah, there haven't been any.
So that's
protected
either
turtles.
excellent news or.
there's no turtle.
So the map, I noted this in my email transmittal, definitely, needs some work in terms of formatting and clarity. But it's up here on the screen and, you can see kind of, it's marked up, here, it's marked up here,
Okay,
it's marked up here and here.
so the ones you mentioned first, those are signs? Or, I just wasn't clear on what that does.
Yeah, I mean,
That's too, yeah.
yeah, it's upside down too.
So,
Well.
so that's like the detour.
So I flipped it on my computer, but I don't have.
So this is the detour for overweight vehicles, that's where they would.
That was
Okay.
my takeaway from it.
Okay. So any thoughts about this, about the text? I mean, this has to be submitted tomorrow.
By the end of Wednesday.
Okay.
Yeah.
I thought it was good. Basically what they've been doing recently anyways, as far as the maintenance of it. And more signage would definitely be helpful.
Yeah, larger signs, those signs are pretty nondescript, the way
Yeah.
those signs.
Yeah, almost.
They almost blend
Not
in.
notice, you have to be looking for it to see it.
Did you?
Yeah, well,
see
the other thing
sign?
is that sometimes the signs are blocked by branches that haven't been trimmed. I think that's, in that particular area, we need to be attentive to that.
So do you also have the photo of the signs?
I do,
That was
yeah.
an intention. So that'll be 5 tons, right?
It's currently 5 tons.
Yeah,
You slipped in a 2.5 ton and we'll see what happens.
yeah. Those are still not very large. At least there's some color to them, so they stand out. So I don't know if you saw Michelle's comment about not giving public, notice about landing turtles being there. Did you see that in the email? That was the revision that she suggested is, rather than sending out public alerts specifically saying, you know, avoid this area because of the turtles, would just be more generic. Natural Heritage doesn't like to identify where endangered species are.
I think people start.
Oh, sure. Right.
And I had sent out, revised language, which she had got back and they said that was fine.
Yeah, I think that was good.
So, yeah, just a slight rewrite to this paragraph to take away the reference to landing turtles
Yeah.
specifically.
All right, so we need a motion to authorize the submittal of this document to Natural Heritage.
As amended with the paragraph from Michelle. Make that motion.
Okay. Second, any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Here's the
Rick, are you in favor?
Sorry, yes, aye.
Okay, very good.
All right, thank you.
All right, item D is a request to withdraw the notice of intent for Whetstone Trail. That's not moving forward, so just as a housekeeping item, you want to withdraw this from consideration by the Conservation Commission?
I know nothing about it. Yeah. We have to formally vote on
Well, so Michelle had asked me, and I told her
It's
it
fine.
hadn't been moving forward for quite a while, but since it was the board's, NOI, I didn't feel empowered to specifically withdraw it. I mean, I know it's a practical matter. It's not on anyone's work plan in the near term. So, and there's no funding,
Yeah, just
so
the connection
it's
between
effectively dormant, but.
Sullivan's Court and River Meadow.
it. Yeah,
Where-
heard buzz about it in the past. And
Yeah, so
a lot
there
of
was-
issues associated with it.
Yeah, there was CPA money allocated toward it, but, and the developer left money for it, but it's inadequate, wholly inadequate for the cost.
Okay.
So what I hadn't realized until Michelle brought it to my attention a couple of weeks ago was that Concom can, as long as they have an open NOI, they continue it on every single agenda.
Okay,
So in order
housekeeping
to
issues.
amend it, or I'm sorry, in order to withdraw it, I would look for a vote of the board to withdraw the notice of intent.
Make a motion to withdraw the notice of intent for the Whetstone Green Project.
Do we need to say
Second.
without prejudice or?
I'm not prejudiced.
Yeah, why not?
All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Okay. Item E is the right to farm bylaw. I mentioned this at our last meeting. We have the group of 4 residents here or farmers here who are interested in drafting a bylaw as well as forming an agricultural commission. So I suggested to them that they form a steering committee in order to come up with the draft and gain support for the, fellow residents. So this is what they've provided as a draft charter. I also attached some information from the state website on what that means. So what I thought would be appropriate is if we vote to appoint them to be the steering committee for this bylaw, and then let them do the work to pull it together for special town meeting. But opening comments.
Yeah, I mean, I heard about West Newbury being formally a farming town that is disappearing quickly. I'm all in favor of whatever it takes. I just didn't grasp what this act can get them as far as being more proactive with it.
Well, so this is what the, can you, sorry.
Take a minute.
Pull up the next page.
I know Rick has the thing, but let me just do a screen share.
I mean, it's promotional, but it doesn't give them any protections or any.
No, it's more like community building between the farmers and the residents. So this is something that's been brought up periodically over the last 4 or 5 years. I don't see any harm in it. I mean, as long as they take the initiative to develop it.
One question, just to kind of play devil's advocate, is if this is established, then this group of people, every single time they meet or have a conversation with a quorum, they gotta post, they gotta
As
have
a steering
minutes.
committee.
Once it's appointed by a public body, so right now, they can do anything they want to do in terms of advocacy or communications or recommendations to anyone, but once it's a public body, there's a whole lot of overhead associated with that. So that's fine, but they may say, geez, in the old days, we could just pick up the phone and have a conversation. Now, they'd be bound by the same restrictions.
So they could do this just as an ad hoc group. They could then come to the board or even a citizen's petition once they got it done.
Mhm.
That way they can fly under the radar all day long.
Right,
They
Right.
could come to the
Yep.
board and ask for input without even being a committee.
right.
Um,
So it's one of these kind of be careful what you wish for things.
Yeah. Is there any benefit to having an appointed committee versus having them do it informally?
It imparts some kind of,
Buy-in, that's the word.
yeah,
But they could still come to the meeting, get on the agenda and ask for our feedback without even being an official committee. Put it together and say, would you put this on the warrant or even do a citizen petition again? So there's no, I think it's much more efficient for them to do it that way.
Except for they would need 100 signatures to do it for special town meeting.
So do it again for 10.
Yeah.
But we're gonna do it anyway, I hope we would, or I'm all for almost anything. You know what I mean? Oh, Jim sneaking up on.
Oh. Rick, what do you think?
Thinks he's a nice guy too.
I think the idea of actually not being a committee makes a lot of sense. And if they, if the advocates for this, if it's explained to them, they might appreciate the advantage of actually not being a formally appointed committee. Yeah, I mean, I expect that, we as at least the current board are going to be fully supportive of what they're trying to do, just in, terms of promoting the limited agriculture that does still remain in town.
So once the bylaw comes forward, we will have to appoint an agricultural commission.
Okay.
So my thought was, just appoint them now and then they would, potentially just become the agricultural commission. I mean, I don't feel really strongly about it. I just thought that was, that's what we did for the Affordable Housing Trust bylaw. We formed a bylaw committee to write it. But, that does come with minutes and with the meeting all stuff, so.
You can wait till the bylaw comes forward. I'll let them work in the background and get it set up and then they can come to any of our meetings to ask for input or give us an update anytime.
Mhm. All right.
So just out of curiosity, I haven't read all this in detail. If it's an agricultural commission, who is it that appoints them? We probably works out well that, we learned that the Conservation Commission members are actually appointed by the town manager. And in the case of this, would they be appointed by the town manager or by the select board? Do we know? I mean, it's probably not a state statutory, or it's the statutory rules are probably quite a bit different than the Concom, but I'm just curious.
My understanding was they would be appointed by the select board.
Yeah.
But maybe we can look into that.
But that would probably have to be part of the bylaw as well.
Right, that's,
Right. Right.
As Rick had mentioned at the last meeting, in general, our zoning protects farming.
mhm.
So what is it that is, what additional work is needed in that regard?
So there's a whole list of bullets here on the document. from-
Yeah, I'm looking at it.
Yeah, so it's not so much protection of farming, it's more about creating, you know, and supporting farming.
It's more advocacy, which is.
Yeah, they're
bringing it to
talking
the
about-
full light.
Establishing a farmer's market, you know, stuff like that.
Yeah, right, so they could do that through the nature of their own association. And then come in and talk directly to you.
Yeah, I don't see an issue with it. Unless
Yeah,
you do.
now, yeah, a farmer's market would be pretty neat. I mean, to have one in town, but I'm not sure where that would be
No,
done.
no, I didn't say anything about a farmer's market.
Well, actually, Wendy just mentioned that.
All right, so it sounds like the consensus is to just let them work in the background and reach out as needed for support.
I mean, it might be great to invite them
Yes.
to come to a future meeting, that way the
I did
lines
invite
of
them.
communication. are open, And they can hear directly the board and hear the support that's being expressed and not misread the direction.
Yeah,
But I think they'll be better off,
mhm,
you know, and there's certainly ways they can make sure they have a, you know, a profile of visibility with the town.
mhm.
Right,
Both with staff and through boards and committees. But yeah, it's definitely, once they're a public body, it's definitely another, you know, it just makes it 33 committees instead of 32. It definitely,
Yeah,
you know, it's more to the town report. It's just, it's more, it is more.
okay.
We see that even for
and
the,
there are some other groups just like that, that are well supported in town and getting things done, like West Newbury,
Well,
Wild and
but
Native.
this is specifically for farming, though. I think that would
That's
be,
specifically, yeah, right.
And when they do say the farming, it's specifically too, all the pictures that we see of fruits and vegetables and farm stands. What about the Christmas tree farms? You know how many we've lost in town? I mean, that's another
Yeah.
component of
well,
agriculture.
this was not put forward.
Oh, I
by
know, but
them.
all the other stuff too that you see here, it looks, you know, it's implied that it's fruits and vegetables, which is great, but.
No, they're also talking about animals. you know,
Okay,
animals.
that's what I was gonna say, it's all kinds of other things, because just when I do my walks around town, there have been a number, we used to be the little Christmas tree capital of the northeast of Massachusetts, and they're all closing down, as I know, Crane Neck is in the process of segueing out, and we've lost so many others. you know,
Mhm.
Tom
Yeah,
Oaks.
everybody's aging out.
Yeah,
Yeah, so are the trees.
Yeah, right. Well, you gotta keep planting the trees.
okay, so I will reach out to these folks and, just express our support and ask them to start working on the bylaw.
it also would be great just to make sure, and I'm sure they do, but make sure they understand what's already in place with the town's bylaws and policies. I mean, one that comes to mind is I'm seeing the chapter 61 right of first refusal.
Mhm.
This town has an incredibly specific process to handle that I think is really exemplary.
Mhm.
And that's something that I hope they know about, but they may not, and that would be good for them to understand how we handle those, because the board, or some board had put that in place years ago, we've modified it since I've been here, and it's very, very good. And so, you know, let's make sure they know what the town's already doing,
Mhm.
some of the work, the Open Space Committee and others are doing that, really significantly advances a lot of what's outlined here. And, I don't know if fundraising or anything like that is any part of what they're envisioning, but that's something where we've seen, you know, some frustration from like Mill Pond Committee, they wanted to fundraise, and once they became aware the restrictions that are on them as a public committee, like that's a good example of something they simply can't do something they could otherwise do, but once you're a public committee, you're subject to, you know, different laws that, they may or may not be thinking about.
Mhm. Okay,
Yeah, so that speaks to having a conversation with, you know, the people who've expressed interest, and sort of explaining the advantages and the disadvantages of formalizing things.
you mean just to
Sorry.
write the bylaw or in general for this whole thing?
I think in general, sorry about that, I muted again.
Yeah.
Uh,
I mean,
yeah, I just. The more formalized it gets, then the more constrained it becomes.
I think unfortunately, Rick, if it stays as a
Like a loose.
unofficial committee, eventually they fall apart and dissolve, or if it's an appointed committee, there's always the obligation to find somebody to put on those committees.
Yeah,
So, and also I think the backing of the town carries a little bit more significance, hopefully.
yeah,
All right, well, I'll circle back with them and, just advise them of the feedback and see where they want to go from here.
okay, yeah, I mean, I am fully in support of what they're trying to do. I just want to do it in the way that carries the least overhead. For members of the group, whether it be a committee or commission, and for, and for the town to manage another committee. And yeah, I mean, the two of the members here have, Chris Grant and Brendan Bradley, they have, two of the well-known places to buy vegetable, one is a CSA and the other one, obviously Grant Family Farm, grows and sells their own vegetables and flowers and such, so. Yeah,
Okay. So item F.
So this came up at the MMA conference. I am a member of the Small Town Administrators Massachusetts STAM. And they had a luncheon at the conference and circulated this one-page list of legislative priorities and have asked their members to see if their community wants to sign on. So I'm bringing it to the board to see if you feel these are consistent with priorities that we would share, and if so, I would simply sign it, send it to them, and they would, in their future advocacy with the legislature, they would simply list West Newbury among the municipalities that had signed on to these priorities.
So were some of these things covered at the,
Not in any detail, no.
I was looking at the procurement thresholds, what did?
Well, that did, yeah, so as, I mentioned to you, the governor in her keynote had described some features of a bill that she, I gather, had recently filed. This was just, a week or two ago, so one of the changes that's in a bill the governor filed would increase the threshold for required RFP from 50,000 to 100,000, and it's not been passed yet. That's something that, it's responsive to one of the things small towns have petitioned for. I let our procurement officer, Caitlin Parker, know. She's just responded. She said, that sounds wonderful. So, I mean, so who knows if that'll pass or not, but obviously the education funding formulas, that's something we've talked about. That's a chronic issue with a lot of small and rural communities with the regional Chapter 70 formula. The Municipal Building Assistance Authority is envisioned as something that would be just like a school building, not school building authority, except for, public safety complexes and town buildings and that kind of thing, to provide a dedicated funding, state funding to support those things.
So the only one I had a question on is the second bullet from the end, provide staffing and support for the Office of Rural Affairs. So is that who is putting this forward? Or?
No, this is prepared by I don't know enough about the leadership structure of STAN because I haven't been involved that long, but I was on the Mass Association of Planning Directors for a number of years. And I was on that board and president of that for a couple of years. It was a group of town planners who would get together and we'd
Nerd out.
right, so I suspect it's something similar. The president of STAM this year is Denise Demkowski, who you'll recall from her role at Groveland. She moved on to be the town administrator in Stowe a couple of years ago, but she's very involved. I think it's just small town administrators kind of collecting their thoughts and trying to have some, and they were specific at the lunch that they all have a lot more objectives than this, but they want something that boils down to a page just to have a kind of a focused message.
I thought you were asking, who is the Office of Rural Affairs? And what do they do for us?
Well, so that's something that, so if you'd asked me, well, I really don't know. What I will tell you is that I'd never heard of that. And then starting, when was it? In for September, I got an introductory email blast from a woman named Ann Goby, who is the Director of Rural Affairs. Okay, I did not know that. So, so since that time, I've gotten, I don't know, probably 40 emails, including they have a monthly, it's actually, sometimes it's weekly, there's a rural check-in. And I haven't listened in because you don't really have a lot of time, but if someone else, but anyhow, it seems like, and I assume it's a directive of the governor to really explicitly reach out to smaller rural communities.
That's the way I would.
Yeah.
So there's an there's.
Yeah,
There's perhaps an ally there or.
Correct, and I think
anybody
it's-
who's working on education funding formulas that specifically calls out regional school districts and rural communities,
Yeah,
you know. so-
yeah, I definitely think there seems to be some kind of,
Movement.
I don't know, yeah, movement. I wouldn't necessarily say momentum.
Like Olive Guthrie.
Oh, look at that. Okay, so Jim, with his Googling, so it looks like March, right around when the governor created that other office we were just talking about. The state federal funding office also announced its creation of Director of Rural Affairs. So, yeah, so it's a new directorate and,
Good.
so maybe she doesn't have enough staff.
My guess is they probably
They
just like hired her.
hired her, created the office, hired her, and said, good luck.
So, but yeah, I'm just scanning through my emails, looks like there's been a rural check-in, every couple of weeks.
Cool.
Rural recap, so I don't really look at these, so I'll have to start, looking at them or have Rebecca look at
Yeah,
them.
Rebecca was there.
Yeah.
Okay, so do you want a motion or? just-
Yeah, I think it'd be great, I'd like to, it all seems like very worthwhile.
Is there any time or financial commitment?
No.
It's just an advocacy and they put your name on?
Yeah.
That motion?
I'll make a motion to authorize Angus to sign the letter. Or
I'll
stamp.
second.
All right, all in favor? Aye.
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 Thank you.
Okay, and then G, Noah. ECCF letter of support regarding the NOAA grant. And ECCF is Essex.
Essex County Community Foundation.
Okay.
So, and I, at the time, I got this, last Monday, and the deadline is 2 days from now. So I put it in the packet, not really having taken a lot of time with it. I did get back to them just to let them know I would bring it to the board and that, would let them know one way or the other. Appreciate the response, but, it's not something I've spent a lot of time looking at.
Yeah. I feel like I would need to do some research on this. I mean, I don't know how you,
I wasn't comfortable with it, just.
I mean, it all sounds good, but
Yeah, but I just don't
it just
know.
comes out of nowhere.
Yeah.
Right, yeah, I mean, it sounds somewhat complementary with, the MVP program, sort of. But it's not really, there's not a lot of detail and it's.
So would you let them know that we are in favor of the mission and just on the short time frame we're able to
Yeah,
commit to this? Okay, G, general discussion items. A is potential participation in the commercial building pilot program. So this is initiative proposed by the What's the acronym of the committee, Rick?
ESC, Energy and Sustainability Committee. Yeah. So, yeah, this is a program, obviously, as the title says, from Mass CEC. It's a pilot program. They're trying to develop methodologies, sort of a standard toolkit. This will be, I'm thinking, just the first pass. They'll probably be doing something similar again as they try to figure out how to how to address the issue of bringing buildings to a state where they can be essentially decarbonized. And so right now they're going to be selecting 15 buildings throughout the state. We could qualify, I think. I had sent an email just to make sure that, if we were to do something, say with the 1910 building and the senior housing, and I don't recall how I referred to the annex, but and another building, another municipal building, where the aggregate would be 20,000 feet and 20,000 square feet or greater, and got a generally positive response to that. It's hard to say what our chances would be of being selected for this, but you've heard me talk in the past about the need for us to start to think about decarbonizing not just municipal buildings, but the residential buildings, and how that that's not going to be the town's responsibility, but if we can facilitate that in some way or ways, then it helps everybody in the long term. So with this pilot, we don't have to perform, if we were selected, we wouldn't have to perform any major changes in any rapid time frame. All we have to assure them is that we are with the buildings that were selected, that we were going to target following the decarbonization plan within some time frame, certainly before 2050. That's quite a ways out, and I think everything needs to be there by that time anyway. So we talked in the ESC, we talked about the idea of looking at municipal buildings, the 1910 building, the public safety complex, and the library, and having a decarbonization plan done for them. Working with somebody sort of like, and maybe it would actually be B2Q, who's done some other energy related stuff for us. Whether that's in their wheelhouse or not, I don't know. But if we were, that would cost us. If we were to be selected for this, for those particular buildings, it wouldn't cost us anything, and it would, we'd be getting an early start.
I noticed in here that applications were started being accepting on November 1st. Do you know if anybody's been selected yet?
I do not.
Okay.
And that's, I suspect we can find that out. But it's a rolling application process.
Yeah, I was trying to figure out how likely is it that we would be one of the 15 selected, because I think it will be some work on the town's part to participate in this.
Yeah, I actually don't think it'll be a tremendous amount of work for the town. I think the committee will be able to pull. We'll probably need help with bills, but much of the information should be in Mass Energy Insights. In the database that we already have.
Mhm.
I don't think there will. I think there will be very limited help required from town staff.
So I'm looking at phase 2. They're talking about a 3-month process of creating the decarbonization plan. So that will be all ESC.
Yeah, so that's what their consultant would do. So if we were selected, for the buildings that we chose, then we would need to give them information on the buildings, energy usage. They'd undoubtedly need information on the existing equipment, and on the the building envelope. But then they do the plan. They take that and they look to develop a plan that can be implemented to decarbonize the building. And it might involve replacing existing equipment. It might involve replacing equipment as it's ready to retire anyway. It might involve converting to buildings to heat pumps. I'm not going to speculate on what their consultants would conclude were the most viable way to do this.
I'm just reading from
Right.
the scope. It says, participants and consultants will work together to create the plan.
Yeah, that's on item number 2 on page 167. So there is some additional work that the town. Will
Yeah.
kick in.
So I guess I'm just a little concerned on the selection criteria or priorities. Clearly we meet number 1, number 2, we don't. Project sites located in environmental justice communities.
Well,
And then
so in that case, what we have is not an environmental justice community, but we have a vulnerable community and the senior housing. We'd have to see if the housing authority was interested in joining us. And the housing authority is currently looking at putting solar on the building. So their minds appear to be headed in that direction. And they would be part of the process. Their building or their spaces would be part of the process.
Right, I'm just not sure that that's what they mean by environmental justice communities. But anyway, and then I guess my final concern is just if we do all this, how are we obligated? It says applicants who intend to fully decarbonize their project site. So have we as a town made a commitment to fully decarbonize?
Yeah, but I think the time frame, where is that? I've got to find the time. I mean, the time frame is quite a ways out there. And they say, it could be done piecemeal as equipment fails and needs to be replaced. Or, some community or some building owners might choose to just do it all in one fell swoop. But I don't think that's what we would do. I doubt it.
But have we made that commitment, I guess, just philosophically as a town?
Well, I guess I assume that we were acknowledging reality and that we had to do that. And no, I guess we haven't as a board talked about that specifically, but
yeah, so I want to tag on to that comment because it's a word that I understand that, decarbonization, but what exactly does it really mean? And when you look through this, a lot of it is electrification of everything, but.
Right.
So then maybe it's naive. I thought, okay, so where does our electricity all come? First of all, if everybody decarbonizes, i.e. switches to electric, unless it's solar, you're gonna overtax the electric grid, which we already have problems with. But then I went onto the US Department of Energy website and said, where does our electricity, how does it get generated? 20% of it is solar, the other 80% comes from natural gas, which we hear is also terrible, coal and nuclear, so.
Yeah, but Chris, we're in a transition mode.
Well, but it's transition with blinders, because if you decarbonize this building by putting on an electric, the generation of that electric is almost as distasteful as fossil fuel use, so I'm not sure which is worse or which is better. Right? You gotta get your electric from somewhere.
Right, and so you may have a mix of power generation today. It's not going to be the same tomorrow, and certainly not going to be the same 10 years from now or 20 years from now. The trend is towards more increasing amount of renewably generated energy, whether it be wind or solar. There I guess maybe some people still buy into the fact that 50 years from now, we're going to still be burning oil. I personally find that repugnant and think that will basically be the end of our kids' world.
Yeah, but without a plan, the way we get our electric currently is natural gas, coal, and nuclear. Are any of those better? That's what I'm saying. I agree with you that what we're doing is wrong, but I'm not sure what the solution is.
Well, so you mentioned, so one of the issues is the grid, the capability of the grid. Well, there's major effort going on right now to build out the grid, to improve the grid, to improve the power capability, both for transmission and for distribution. That's going to cost money. I mean, that's why, I think a few weeks ago we had something where there was a notification that National Grid was applying for significantly higher rates for distribution. That's because they've got to build it out. But that's to accommodate the electrification.
Any other? Angus, do you have a sense of how much burden this would place on town staff?
It's hard to know. I did, Rick had brought this to me a little while back, and we talked a little bit about it. One question I have, Rick, this is on page 6 of the form, says applicants must own and be the primary decision maker of the project site, and where, in order to get to the 20,000 square foot threshold, because I had questioned initially, to Rick whether, this building, like, how did we get to 20,000? He said, oh, it's the combined, but obviously the annex is owned by, it's
By the
owned
housing
us,
authority.
but it sits on property owned by the housing authority, and the housing authority housing is owned by the housing authority. So it seemed to me a little unlikely this very unique circumstance involving municipal entities, housing authority, fragmented land ownership, fragmented building ownership, really not seeming to me to be replicable. It seems kind of like, why would this be selected for a pilot project? And I suggested, they're probably looking for strip malls, big box retail, traditional multifamily, 180 unit apartment buildings, because that would be replicable. Whether that's just more kind of gauging the odds of, are we likely to get it or not? It seems to me.
Well, here, in this case, there wouldn't be a primary decision maker. So you're either doing a joint application with another organization, or you don't have a primary decision maker.
Yeah, I think
I had the same
housing
observation.
authority kind of formally on board, but in terms of the level of effort, I don't disagree with what Rick said, that already as part of the green communities, we're the town, through the collective efforts of the committee and staff, are, posting all of the information on the usage. We have all the records and all the electric bills. That's no heavy lift to provide. We already do all of that for the green communities reporting. But where it's a new program, you don't really know, what they expect in some of the timeframes. I mean, we see what we're trying to do here, and we're often doing things on other people's timeframes,
Right.
again and again and again, and that is part of why we're constantly scrambling and working long hours to keep our own priorities on track, because we hitch ourselves to so many other timelines. But it's if the town goes forward, obviously we'll support it, but I'll need to give clear direction to staff who would be involved, just so they know how much time is an appropriate amount of time, given everything else we're asking them to do.
I guess my
So-
concern is it seems pretty unlikely that we'd be selected, and so I hesitate to apply any resources, whether it's the ESC or town, you know, towards something that's pretty unlikely. I mean, is there a benefit to applying even if we are pretty sure we're not gonna get selected?
I think that would be a stretch to suggest that there's a direct benefit just to
Okay.
apply. Yeah.
All right,
I mean, it'd be good to know, you know, since the November 1st deadline, how many applications have they received, how many have they awarded?
yeah.
Because it could be a moot point, they could
Right,
have
there'd
already
be 14.
selected their 15,
It says at least 15.
okay, all right.
I'm sorry, say that again, Jim?
It says at least 15, so technically
Yeah,
they could.
yeah.
Do more.
Yeah, it depends upon their funding and then whether they get additional funding.
So how are you feeling about this? Okay. Do you want to put this off until next week and find out how many have been selected already?
Sure. I will do that.
All right, so then this will just be a quick update and a vote next week. Does that put the timeline back too far for you?
No, you know, at this point, I don't think, you know, it opened up on this November 1st, whatever the date was. I don't think this has been all that well advertised, and I don't think there are a lot of communities that are clamoring, or not just communities, but a lot of businesses or communities that are clamoring to participate. I could be wrong about that, but I haven't heard anything else about it other than seeing this single solicitation that came in you know, just a publication from, or an email from DOER.
What do you think about deferring it, or would you rather just decide now?
Leave that to you. Rick.
I'll find out. Hopefully that's something I can find out fairly readily.
Yeah, I also feel like we need to figure out, are we committing to fully decarbonizing? Because that's kind of the basis of this whole program. So that might be a larger conversation than just deferring till next week.
Right. Well,
Yeah.
but you know, they reference the 2050 climate goals. So that's the goal, is by 2050. You know, that's been stated statewide. It's been stated, obviously the political winds can blow differently, but, you know, currently, you know, there's considerable conversation, both at the state level and the federal level, about 2050. You know, there are numerous businesses that are targeting 2030 now. I mean, you hear all you know, a range of decarbonization dates, basically.
Okay.
And you know, and Chris, you're right. I mean, it's going to require changes in the system, but you know, we're just one little piece of the system.
Okay, next item, B, designate a representative and schedule personnel evaluations for the town manager and the town accountant. So the form in here for the town manager is the one we created based off your job description. You would envision using the new form, right? Or would you prefer to keep
It's
it?
really, I mean, you all are the,
Well, what do you think is most reflective of your?
I thought this form was good. You know, I know you and I talked early on about, with regard to the other forms, I was very concerned about applying this same form to every
Oh, right.
job, because
Yeah.
yeah. So I thought it worked well. You know, I thought the evals that we've had have seemed to cover all of the things that you would think they would cover. So I'd be fine, same form to be used, but it's really up to the board.
I mean, is there any benefit to you using the same form as all other staff?
I don't think so.
Received or- Yeah, okay. All right, so a date.
Yeah, I mean, sometime ahead of town meeting, so I just didn't want it to creep up on us, and same with same with the town accountant.
Yeah, so with this, I think maybe waiting until March, until you go through yours. I mean, I
Yeah,
wanna-
that would be ideal.
yeah, last year, we didn't get enough time to really,
Yeah,
you know,
yeah.
put thought into it. So I would propose that we schedule it in March.
Yeah, I mean, ideally after the FinCom process is
Yeah.
if not complete, at least like.
Like towards the end of March.
Last stages, yeah.
Yeah.
I think late March would be good.
Does that sound all right, Greg? Thumbs up? Okay. All right,
Yeah, sorry about that.
okay. So the town account, I feel like that should be done on a more expedited manner.
Yeah, we've been working to get the other eval scheduled, so this is really similar to kind of, the outreach we've done for others, other department heads where both I and a board or commission are involved is to, what I've recommended in those cases is that, a member be designated to participate with me in preparing the accountant's evaluation. It's the same, approach we've taken with town planner, conservation agent, water superintendent. So,
And would you envision using the new evaluation
yes,
form?
yeah,
Okay.
Yeah.
Right, I'm happy to do that unless one of you wanna.
I don't have enough knowledge on that.
Okay,
Have at it.
all right. So. we can
And
do
thank
that.
you too, by the way.
Sure,
so
so
I'll,
as soon as you're ready,
Good.
we can do it late afternoon,
good.
all
Good,
right?
thank you.
Item H, correspondence, deed acceptance for some property, hooray, so that's, at least that phase is over. HB, Attorney General approval for zoning bylaw amendments. And then we just got another one, right?
We got two, actually, so I alluded to catching a mistake. The Attorney General's office made, they had sent us the approval for the zoning bylaw under the case number for the general bylaw.
Look at you, catching the details.
So I don't know how I figured that one out, but I did. And I had a feeling that they were just sitting on approvals, waiting till like the 90th day, and then
Yeah.
they sent it out to us. So I think we got the ADU approval much earlier than we should have,
Yeah.
which is great. And then there's comments, but there weren't any, it was more like be careful of this
Okay,
than disapproval or anything else. So
Okay.
everything from town meeting for approvals for bylaws, zoning and general that have been approved.
so those cautions, we pass those along to the planning board, or is that more?
Yeah, no, I forwarded it to all departments,
Okay.
that affected, but it was, similar to what was in here, for these approvals. It was just saying this is what's happened in the past, so this doesn't cover this, or things like that.
Okay. Good. All
One
right,
just point of interest, and actually I'll bring this up with Rick here. So on the solar amendments, Rick is aware, we're currently working to respond to a couple of questions that Mass DOER had on the Green Communities Annual Report from last year. One of which was they're looking for an opinion from town council that the solar bylaw amendments are in keeping with our requirements under the Green Communities Act. And Rick, you hadn't been on this recent thread of emails earlier today, but we're in correspondence with town council as follow-up to that. And so Robin had asked whether we could provide the town's original council opinion that it submitted when it first applied for green community status. And I have poked around a little. That's what I think it's been green community since what, 2007? You're on mute. You're muted, Rick.
Yeah, it was 2013.
Oh, it was
So our
2013. Okay.
yeah, our baseline year is 2011, and we actually, were designated in 2013.
Okay, so that may help me narrow it down, but as you know, we had in-house town council. We do have, an index that Jim did a lot of work on early in his tenure since he was taking over for prior town clerk, town council. We'd worked together to actually create an index of all the pre-Jim town council opinions, and that was really so we would have a resource to provide to KP, or so that we're not asking questions that have been asked and answered in the past. So we did do a quick search of that, and the term green and the terms solar, neither of those terms came up. So I just don't know how much time into chasing. So, Rick, do you happen to know, it sounds like, Robin, just the way she framed the question, seemed clear that, well, there would have been a council opinion. Do you have any idea where?
I
whether-
don't, I don't think there was ever a council opinion. Early on, that may not have been a requirement.
Okay, yeah, because
I don't know that for sure, but I don't recall ever, it was 10
And
years
part of the
ago.
irony, part of the irony of the DOER's request, I think, and I'm sure Rick agrees, is that the amendments that were approved in the spring unquestionably made it easier to build solar. So if it's,
Right.
anyhow, I just don't know, like trying to find a legal opinion from 2013.
Yeah,
I mean, really?
I don't think you're gonna find it. I don't think it exists. I could be wrong. Mike
So,
could
yeah,
find it.
I
It
sent a
would have been
note
done
to
by
Robin
Mike,
just
and,
to-
but,
And the
he would,
reason?
he might recall.
Why does DOER?
Want the original opinion.
That's not our town council was asked for that because they have been asked to provide an opinion to DOER.
Sorry, I misunderstood.
So,
Sorry.
yeah.
Sorry.
So anyway.
Yeah, it's kind of that seems to me is to be kind of irrelevant. What the previous opinion, the previous situation or the previous zoning was so incredibly restrictive. I mean, it was
Yeah.
one parcel and we kind of slid by with it. And,
Yeah.
quite honestly, this now is, it's a real opportunities within town to locate solar on, on the right parcels. And so I just don't see the comparison. I can understand why Robin might ask for that, but in the end, I don't really think it's relevant because the previous the previous zoning was incredibly strict, ridiculously
Yeah.
strict.
That's kind of the gist of the response I sent to her late this afternoon and I kind of finished by just saying how critical is this to you in responding to the current Mass DOER question, because I don't think she needs it, and I don't want to make a day of it trying to find some old document that may or may not exist.
Yeah.
All right, last item, 0% rate change.
Figured we'd end on a good note. You're gonna have enough non-zero increases in the
Yeah, I just think it's
FY25.
So is that a guaranteed in
It
FY
is.
26?
It is, yeah, basically, when we met with Connor, our account rep back in the fall, I forget the exact numbers, but my recollection is it's something we're in like the top 10% of all my communities in terms of our, low utilization of our property casualty insurance. So this was a way for them to reward that.
Yeah, those are.
These
pretty
are
nice.
kind of a high bar we've set here. How are we gonna match that?
Nowhere to go but down.
Well, just last night, there was a driver who ran aground over at the public safety building, knocked over one of their lights.
Oh, you
So,
did?
no.
So that's where you go against their insurance company.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah,
We don't file. the
that, you got that right.
Don't fix it tonight, not telling you.
But it wasn't, was it about 10 days ago that one of our, plows, took out the, blinking school light, so we deal with insurance a lot.
Well,
Just the
But
one
I
down
guess-
at the high
I got a
school?
relative man. Obviously, that's fine.
Was that the one with the high school?
Yeah,
Cause I started missing and that was back again. It's welded in there. It's like, okay.
that got taken out by, our sidewalk plow, which was actually our borrowed sidewalk plow, because our sidewalk plow was out of commission, so.
What,
Brand
the
new
new one?
No, the new one's not in yet. No, the old one.
We haven't got the.
No.
Oh, of course the old one's on it.
Yeah.
It should have been on it.
Well, that makes me feel a lot better, cause
Yeah.
that one that was not this one, but the last one,
Yeah,
it's like, if that's what 180 grand gets. you-
no,
Okay. Well, that's a whole lot better news.
yeah, and they borrowed it from Groveland because,
Okay.
we didn't have a backup.
Well, that explains a lot of other things then,
Yeah.
okay. All right, let me get into this meeting.
All right, any future agenda items?
No.
Thanks, guys. Rick, you good?
I'm good. I'm
All
done.
right.
Well, okay.
I'm
Oh,
We're
moving
doing
adjourned.
meeting dates, right? We're doing meeting dates.
Right, it wasn't on the agenda.
I move we adjourn.
I'm surprised.
So Rebecca.
It came in on Friday, we post on Thursday
Hang on,
afternoon.
okay, no.
Yes.
Right. Okay, I stand corrected, yeah.
All right, so Rebecca sent an email out, just before the meeting.
Okay.
Let me see. So, February 15th, Thursday, 6 o'clock. So it looks like she changed Wednesday, the joint meeting.
I had a member unavailable on a Wednesday, so we proposed Tuesday or Thursday of that week. That's the holiday week, as
Yeah.
I recall.
Look at this.
Okay, that
Well, this
week,
is about me, you can get back to me, it's just, we can't do the Wednesday we originally said yes to,
and the Monday's a holiday.
and the Monday's a
How
holiday.
about Friday?
I didn't ask them about Friday. You
Yeah.
want me to ask them about
So
Friday?
Tuesday's a Park and Rec meeting and Thursday's the CPC meeting.
So I'll ask them about Friday.
Well, Park and Rec ends at, or begins at
Oh,
5.
that's right. So that'll be.
So if you
Okay.
scheduled something for 6:30.
Oh, we'll go later, yeah.
Yeah.
It's easier, because as you know, scheduling meetings, herding cats, same thing.
Okay.
Right.
All right, so we're good for that week then, if you.
So just to be clear, that would be Tuesday at the 20th at 6:30?
Yeah,
Okay.
Okay, the following week, Monday, the
It says 6 here,
26th.
so it's 6:30 though. Angus, you
What's
just
that?
said, you just
six
said,
thirty, it's,
okay, so what's shown here is not correct in the email that we received. earlier.
Right, we made an adjustment on the fly, Rick, because there's a Park
Okay.
and Rec meeting at 5 that same night, so 6
Okay.
PM is
Yeah,
cutting
okay,
it.
all right, yeah, I guess okay, sorry.
All right, so then the following Monday is a select board meeting, right?
Which fall, 26th?
Yes, 26th, February.
Correct.
March 13th, Wednesday at 6.
Didn't have anything.
What's that?
We didn't have that before, I mean.
It was on my, it's been on my calendar,
Yes.
yeah.
Okay, and then March 20th, which is also Wednesday, and then the following Wednesday, those may not be needed, right?
well, yeah, we'll be meeting
Right.
irrespective, but you may
Yeah.
not need to.
Okay,
It depends on how well things go, obviously.
So I didn't keep track of the conversation. Somebody gonna revise Rebecca's dates and send that out as a
She-
final?
no, she asked us, the three of us, to reply to her if we could make those dates, and so it sounds like we all can, right?
You're saying yes, except one's gonna be
Yeah.
at 6:30.
So I will do that.
To any of them either.
What's that?
Which one did you just change to,
Chris, you can have a copy of this.
that's what I meant,
She sent it to you.
No,
Yeah,
he
At
had,
5 o'clock, when I'm getting ready to come on to this
No, no.
one, I didn't stop and read it.
Okay.
I sent you also this.
Our list didn't jive, I sent you what we had.
No, I never replied back.
Okay, this is the new list, okay?
Yeah,
I'll
Go
look
with
at it,
this.
and if I'm not there, just carry on, how's that?
I will ask Rebecca to
Nobody
update
will
it
miss me.
and send it.
thank you.
All right. All right, meeting adjourned.